If you're ready to hit the track in the iRacing Ford FR500S Mustang, then sign up for the Barber Ford Mustang Club today. With great prizes from our awesome sponsors, this league is fast, fun, and best of all, free to race in. Take on 6 races of wheel-to-wheel action, all broadcasted live on Pit Stop TV. As a member, you will receive a $500 voucher to Barber Ford, plus entry into a raffle for a brand new Fanatec H-pattern shifter. Every point you earn on the track is 1 entry into the raffle, meaning you can race your way into a brand new Fanatec shifter drawn on December 15th. Battle your competitors at Charlotte Motor Speedway, Watkins Glen, Road Atlanta, Barber Motorsports Park, Brands Hatch, and for the finale, Lime Rock Park. Join the Barber Ford Mustang Club at League ID 3350 today.
Late model stock cars are a thing of the Southeast, but that doesn't mean we can't take them up north. Of course, super late models every year make the trip up to Oxford Plains Speedway for the Oxford 250. And while we might not be going quite that far north, while we might not be going quite to that kind of facility, we are going to New Hampshire Motor Speedway this evening on Pit Stop TV, thanks to the DLine Racing League, brought to you by Elevated Performance. We're elevating up the map literally this evening as we take to the Granite State the Magic Mile. Oh, I haven't called this place the Magic Mile in a while. I haven't said that in a minute. But good to be here this evening from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. It is definitely a good vibe at New Hampshire. Really enjoy this place. It's a track that's all too underused on iRacing.com. It is one of the oldest scans that iRacing has to offer, which I think is part of that, but boy does it look so good. Welcome to the virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway. This is just a really cool racing facility. A lot of really cool races have happened here over the course of NASCAR's history, over the course of the last few years even. A lot of really cool, really dramatic moments. We're going to make some of our own this evening with the DLine Racing League. Let's take a look at our track map as qualifying opens up. Of course, located in Loudon, New Hampshire, the fastest late model stock car lap time, well, it doesn't exist. Late model stocks have not run here officially yet on iRacing.com, leaving us to speculate that these cars will be around the 30-second mark. Well, they're actually going to be around the 31-second mark. 31.458 so far, fastest in qualifying by Timothy George. Go ahead and take a look at our point standings, though, coming into this evening. Tim George, well, he's on top of the point standings. He's on top of the qualifying order as they stand, and boy, is Double O the car to talk about right now from Club West, now living in North Carolina. He's got a couple of wins to his name this season, adding one last time out at Five Flags Speedway 2 weeks ago. He'd like to add another one here this evening, that's for sure, as he might just be leading the field to the green. David Levine only 4 points back. Sean O'Hara only 8 points back. Zach Shucker only 11 points back. And we know how good he's been, not even possibly, he has been the best driver this season. It's just a matter of being consistent here in these last 3 rounds. And there's fewer points to go around at this point in the schedule. There's something interesting worth talking about. At least it seems like there's fewer points because we're running a single race this evening here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. A couple of format changes late in the season here to try and rectify some issues. It looks like we might be running single races these last few weeks. The format is very much to be determined at New Smyrna Speedway and Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. But here this evening, it's a single 75-lap race, unless David surprised me with some kind of change, that will feature a few stages, 25 laps apiece. To rise, you must elevate. Elevating so far, I talked about it, Tim George, fastest in qualifying in car 00. Next quickest, Zach Lindgren, as we can take a look at the full rundown of the qualifying standings. Tim George quickest, Zach Lindgren second quick, then Brandon Webb, Michael De La Sala, Zach Shucker, even Brian Miller in the top 6. Take a look here at Sean O'Hara, qualifying in car number 18, and... well, that's the wrong... we are just all over the graphic buttons tonight. But Sean O'Hara, P7 currently in qualifying. Tyler Langenberg checks into the... into the 8th position. Caden Henry Oaks joining us this evening. He'll be joining from car number 19, it looks like, as he pops into the qualifying session. Will be our 14th driver, it looks like. And Langenberg down the front stretch here in car number 91. Does not have any more qualifying. Okay, we have 3 qualifying laps. Langenberg up the board big time. 31.626 that lap. And that's going to big time help the 91 car move up ahead of Brian Miller and Sean O'Hara to the 6th position. Sean O'Hara will then drop down to 8th. Kevin O'Hara is in his car. Waving his steering wheel, it looks like. That's a little concerning. Wonder if he got up from the rig, potentially, and, well, qualifying ends. That means it is time to go racing this evening from the virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway. The cars grouping up down there on the grid. Let's take a look at our weather in the sim this evening. In the air, 77.8 degrees. On track, 107 degrees. Partly cloudy skies. You can see plenty of clouds, plenty of blue sky, plenty of trees there across the hills of New Hampshire. A great place to be racing for sure. Down grid side, we've got a field of 14 getting ready to go racing this evening. Once again, glad to have you watching along with us, and this is going to be a fun race. 75 laps, a big racetrack. We've seen tracks this large. Well, we've seen one track this large earlier on in the season, coming back at Phoenix International Raceway, I think at round number 4. But let's go ahead and run through your starting grid this evening. On pole, position number 1, Timothy George in car 00, while Zach Lindgren will roll off from the 2nd spot. Starting from 3rd position, you got to drop back to Brandon Webb in car number 20. Michael De La Sala rolls off from the 4th position. Zach Shucker will join us this evening from the 5th spot. And starting from 6th, it'll be Tyler Langenberg in car number 91. Starting 7th, Brian Miller in car 26. Sean O'Hara from the 8th position. Starting 9th and 10th, way back in row number 5, Zach Stroud and David Levine, who was out-qualified by Zach Stroud on an oval. How about that? That's crazy to think. Scott Myers, 11th quick in qualifying. Joey Tackett, 12th quick. We'll have just one pace lap this evening, by the way, as Kevin O'Hara and Caden Henry Oaks will join us from row number 7. We'll see a few trips, I think, down the elevated performance pit lane this evening, as we are looking at a 75 lap race with 25 lap stages, stage breaks in between, and potentially it sounds like no green-white checkers. We'll talk more about that later on as we enter the restart zone and go racing from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And down the backstretch already, an advantage to Tim George. Brandon Webb using that starting spot on the inside of row number 2, straight to the inside of Zach Lindgren, making quick work of the number 85. And already, 1 lap complete. Look at how they fan out down the front stretch. Tim George out ahead. Brandon Webb aggressive, laps 1 and 2, moves the 85 up the racetrack ever so slightly. I don't think there was contact there, but Lindgren sure reacted like there was, and they're crashing in the back. Oh my goodness. We stay green up front. That was Kevin O'Hara and Michael Della Sala. Side by side now, the two Zacks. Shucker inside, Lindgren outside. And David Levine is already up to the 7th position, firing down into turn number 1. Further back, some battles deep in the pack. Zach Stroud on the inside, Caden Henry Oaks on the outside. Caden trying to find a way by. Crashing, there they go. Big crash between those two. I think Zach Stroud might have come up the racetrack, but damage healing enabled. That'll keep them both in the race. Brandon Webb up ahead, and caution. Well, a quick and green flag start quickly halted this evening. Sounds like contact between Caden Henry Oaks and Zach Stroud, the culprit of our first caution on the evening. And that's kind of when it's already in progress. We'll actually go back, though, and see if we can find the incident with Michael Della Sala and Kevin O'Hara. This is lap 1, I believe, into turn number 1. Shall we tack it way out high? We could probably just watch from the blimp and watch the number 29 on the inside. The black 29, Kevin O'Hara. Michael Della Sala, shotgun on the field here. This was the completion of lap 1. And watch on the exit here of turn number 2. Something happens between these 3 cars at the back. Della Sala gets in. O'Hara reacts up the racetrack and gets loose, comes down, and hits the 14. They go down to the inside wall together. Again, thankfully, damage healing enabled, saves both of those cars. Meanwhile, it was Caden Henry Oaks and Zach Stroud for the actual caution-causing incident, it sounds like, out of turn number 2. Here's a look at it. On board with Caden. Zach Stroud inside, Caden outside, and oh, we kind of ran into each other. I don't think I blame either driver for that incident at all. Into the restart zone, green flag once again. Lap number 6 underway. Tim George leads us down to the grid, or leads us down to the green flag, and from the outside line drops right down in front of Brandon Webb. Couple of cars into the outside wall. Zach Stroud, one of them. Scott Myers, I think, the other. Into turn number 3. Zach Webb. Zach Lindgren on the outside of Brandon Webb. Zach Shucker fighting back from the now 3rd row, if you will. 4th position back to Rashawn O'Hara. 1 lap complete from the restart. The side-by-side fight is for 2nd. Lindgren, a good run off the top side. Let's see if he can fire off into turn number 3. It seems like so far you can easily get side by side. You just can't go anywhere once you get there. Shucker nowhere to go from the 4th spot. On board with car number 48 now as you take a look at the roadblock he's got up ahead. absolutely nowhere to go between Brandon Webb on the inside, Zach Lindgren on the outside. You could maybe make it 3 wide, though. Is Shucker going to drive down there? Gets a good run on turn number 2. He's perfectly to the inside now of Lindgren, but the 85 gets a good run down to turn number 3, and that'll prevent that from happening. This is feeling very SRS-X now, very SRX-esque, if you will. That's difficult to say. SRX-esque. Very much like SRX, there we go, where these guys go run for a longer race, have to deal with tire wear, and Lindgren bobbles at a turn 2. But they are going to have checkpoints, basically, to be able to get back into this race. Lindgren weaving down the backstretch, frustrated. Not happy at all with the way that car is driving, and I can't say I'll blame him. You can see he's clearly struggling, falling back now from the 2nd spot to 4th, and potentially to 5th. Yeah, he's annoyed. Wagging that tail. Meanwhile, Shucker looks to the inside of Brandon Webb through turns 1 and 2 here for the 2nd spot. Some other battles throughout the field like Tyler Langenberg, Sean O'Hara. But up front for the 2nd position, Shucker right down to the inside of the number 8 of Brandon Webb. Lap 10 now complete. Tim George continues to lead down into turn number 1, and Shucker back to the offensive, sliding around on the inside of the racetrack, trying to hook that flat. There's an interesting thing here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. The whole corner does not hold the same banking. For the very bottom groove, it's just about perfectly flat, so it ends up feeling like it's actually anti-banking, if you will. It feels like it's negative banking. You can go down there, treat it just like an apron at any other racetrack, and de-wedge the car, help it get a little bit loose, a little bit free, and turn a little bit in the center of the corner. But New Hampshire Motor Speedway on iRacing also very much known for being a loose racetrack in and of itself, and that can be a little bit detrimental as Lindgren falls back now to Langenberg, O'Hara, Miller, Levine in that order. And a new paint scheme there for the 26 car of Brian Miller. The whole field is in one line. The only car is really behind anybody, or really kind of falling back from the field, are Kevin O'Hara and Zach Stroud. And right now, even they have really not fallen back very far from Michael De La Salle, Scott Myers, and the rest of them. We can go on board with Scott Myers and see what he's doing, working on the number 3 car of Joseph Tackett to work into the top 10. This would be a pretty important spot. Really valuable points here for the 46 car if he can get them. Sure enough, ships it to the inside. Contact is made. Trying to get that spot away. And the rest of the field has gone single file. Sure enough, just like that, single file now for the 11th and 12th positions. Maybe not. De La Salle to the inside in turn number 1. And Dorbangs the 46 up the racetrack. Again, it's flat down there in the very bottom lane. I think Scott Myers learned that real quick because De La Salle just came up the racetrack entirely and moved him out of the way. That's one way to get by. Meanwhile, up front, our leader has been caught. Zach Shucker driving down the 00 of Tim George. And there was contact between these two at 5 flags. A little bit of drama in the late goings. George ended up making some contact with Shucker to turn number 1. Shucker went around, Tim George won the race, and now to the inside here in turn 3, Zach Shucker on the offensive with Tim George. Contact maybe, they lean on each other. Shucker, though, not able to make that pass. Not yet, at least. Brendan Webb, a mirror full of the 85 car. 15 laps complete. And here we go. Here comes Zach Shucker back down to the inside for turn 3. Looking. Can't quite get there on corner entry. Really, again, not able to do much, but Tim ran up a little high that time at a turn 4. Really through the entirety of turn 4. He was high up the racetrack that corner. Now back down to the door of the 48 car, trying to defend this top spot. Zach Shucker trying to take it away. The bottom side, I think, is a little better, but you can certainly defend from the top. That's everything that Tim George is trying to do while Brandon Webb looks on. Zach Lindgren closes in. Running side by side, definitely a detriment. We're learning that pretty quick. You can see how they all take different lines. Shucker now backing up, trying to park it in the center of the corner and get a good run off. Here comes Brandon Webb to the inside of that 48 car. Zach Lindgren looking on, of course, wants an opportunity, but at the same time, I think trying to save his stuff a little bit. These guys will have stage breaks, but you don't want to pit if you don't necessarily have to. Though I do think everybody will be pitting at each pit stop this evening. We could see some two-tire stops. We could see some guys try to gamble on the elevated performance pit lane. And Webb back to the inside of Lindgren, gambling a little bit there, trying to send it back through and take the third spot back away. But Lindgren plays nicely, lets him have that spot. Now looks to the inside here, though, and challenges for third position. Lindgren not a full pushover here, that's for sure. He's definitely still racing these guys, as frustrated as he might have been about 15 laps ago when he lost all those spots. Langenberg actually now looking on the 85 car, looking high there, but O'Hara similarly looking low on the inside of the 91 car of Langenberg. That slows them both down. It's in tandems right now. You've got George and Shucker, then you've got Webb and Lindgren, then Langenberg and O'Hara. Further back, it's Miller and Levine, actually, for 7th and 9th, or 7th and 8th, rather. Caden Henry Oaks not far back, as we've got problems. Cars scattering across the racetrack out of turn number 4. Zach Stroud, the beneficiary, he goes through to 11th spot. Della Sala drops back to 12th. Scott Myers, 13th, and Kevin O'Hara stays 14th position as this field starts to stretch out ever so slightly. That said, still within 9 seconds, 9.5 seconds of one another. And that, I think, is a pretty solid field. If you can run this many laps green flag at New Hampshire Motor Speedway and only be about 10 seconds apart, your guys are doing something right, as one more lap is complete. On to lap 22 of 75, stage 1 coming to a close very, very soon. Shucker knows that. He wants to get by and get ahead of that 00 car. Not only for any, I don't think there's any potential stage points, but that is important heading into the pit lane to try and be the first car in and also the first car out. And George misses the corner completely up the track that time. Trying to get a run, though, out of turn 4. Can he? Or do we have our first lead change? Oh, that was close. That time through turns 1 and 2. Great corner for the 48 car. Gonna try and make good use of it down here in turn 3. On the offensive, Shucker on the inside. On the defensive, George on the outside. It'll be 2 laps to go in stage number 1. This time by, here comes Brandon Webb. He wants through as Zach Shucker that time officially takes the race lead, leading lap number 23. And we have bunched them up 1st through 4th. All under a blanket. Call it 1st through 5th, as Tyler Langenberg is no slouch. He's in this fight. Down the backstretch will be white flag of the stage this time by. Shucker is still on the inside, trapped down there. George throws it into the corner, and he's going to lose that spot outright. Here comes Webb to challenge. Shucker protecting the bottom side, straight back down to the inside. Parks it down in front of Brandon Webb for turn 1. Caution. And that's the stage, apparently. Gonna have to work with David on that one. But end of stage 1. It sounds like a lap early. So Zach Shucker does win stage number 1 in that case. And certainly deservedly so. Drove up there and passed the 00 car. Somebody worth checking in with is maybe going to come from an unlikely source based on the opening 25 laps of this race. But we're going to grab Tyler Langenberg under the stage break. Tyler, you didn't quite win stage 1, but you were privy to that entire fight between the top 4. How did that look from your point of view, and how can you go beat them?
Honestly, I was just trying to just stay with them, but I felt like I was overheating the tires a little bit. Sean got to me a little bit, and then kind of like a ping pong thing, I came back to him, got up to him, and yeah.
Well, as you head down the elevated performance pit lane, what are you looking for particularly to save those tires and get after it in stage 2?
Just
like how specifically do you save the tires?
Stayed out. I think just oh god, oh come on, a little bit of contact on pit road there, but yeah, I think just taking her easy. I'm taking 2 tires here, so don't really need the left sides. We did a practice race the other day here, and I was like, oh, taking 2 tires on both stops worked, and I think I'm just going to go with that plan, see how it takes me.
Well, you exit the elevator performance pit lane. It looks like 6th position overall. 5th place, though, of the cars that pitted, so about a net 0, if you will. Congrats at least on the top 5 in stage 1, and best luck to you as the race goes on.
Yep, thank you.
Tyler Langenberg from the 6th position now. David Levine does not pit, and that's an interesting move, opting to not take any time on the elevated performance pit lane. Trying to get that track position. I don't know if it's going to work out, but you saw definitely a split of strategies, and last week we gave an award of the elevated performance pit stop of the race. We're going to do the same thing this week. Currently, it would go to Brian Miller because we're considering it to be a 4-tire stop. We're throwing out those 2-tire stops, which might be interesting. You might not see too many 4-tire stops after this point in the race, but Brian Miller, currently the fastest 4-tire stop. No! Caden Henry Oaks now has it. So Caden currently has the best 4-tire stop now by 21 seconds. Well, not by 21 seconds, but of 21 seconds, 20.97. Fastest 4-tire stop of the race. David Levine's going to lead us to the beginning of stage number 2. And Elevated Performance is going to ride along as we begin this one. The iRacing.com safety car back to the safety of pit lane, into the restart zone, and green flag flies once again. A good look there at the many lines around the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and 1 lap complete from stage number 2. Already a fight for the race lead. David Levine trying to hang on to it over Zach Shucker. Shucker's got 2 new tires on the right side of that car, and boy is it working. However, David is defending pretty nicely. Has the race lead still by just a hair of a nose. And in turn number 3, is this where Shucker takes it away? Well, Tim George is working on the 3rd spot from Brandon Webb. And sure enough, Zach Shucker, enough speed there through the center of turns 3 and 4 to almost clear David Levine. Not quite clear for that spot just yet, but this could be how David hangs on, especially if we get a couple of cautions in stage 2 as Zach Lindgren goes purple. 31.516, Levine hanging on. And now parking it, well, not parking it, but moving down to the inside, letting Webb take the outside. Interesting strategy there from David, but he wants the bottom clearly and sends it back in to now park it on exit in front of Brandon Webb. He's definitely racing for all the track position he could get in that 59 car. A bottleneck forming as Webb moves George down the racetrack ever so slightly. Langenberg fastest. Here comes Sean O'Hara looking 3 wide. Big time traffic jam, almost contact again down at turn number 3 between the 8 and the double aught. Sean O'Hara, though, moving ahead of Zach Lindgren by the slimmest of margins as All of this, for now, allows the 48 car to drive away a little bit. Zach Shucker putting a gap on the field as they're all stuck behind David Levine, who's got old tires. Tim to the inside that time in 1 and 2. Might slide up in front of Brandon Webb. Tried to. Not clear. No. Oh! Got hooked to the outside wall. We're still green. Lindgren through the bottom. Straight to third spot. O'Hara sends it up into Tim George and boots him the rest of the way out of the way. Brandon Webb falls back to the 8th spot. And now is going to the inside of Joey Tackett. He's frustrated. Zach Lindgren on the outside of Sean O'Hara. They've now got a lot of time to make up on the 59 car. Racing to lap 50 here in stage 2. 15 to go. And I am oh so impressed by this 59 car. He has definitely saved tires in that first stage, I think. I'm going to be honest, though. I think the play would have been to pit there in stage 1 and keep this in your back pocket between stages 2 and 3. This track position play has certainly worked. However, he could be planning for other drivers to try that kind of strategy and him take tires potentially in stage 3. The field back to single file as we race here on lap 36. A battle, though, between Caden Henry Oaks and Brian Miller. These two had a couple of run-ins back at South Boston in race 1. For now, though, the 19 car going to win out, and Miller going to fall back just behind. And that's the fight for 9th, 10th, and 11th now as Scott Myers closes in. Zach Stroud's not far back. He is 12th position. Kevin O'Hara is 13th, and unfortunately it looks like no Michael De La Salle the rest of this race. He is still in the pit lane as Zach Shucker leads us into turn number 3. But it's David Levine, Zach Lindgren, Sean O'Hara, Tyler Langenberg, and then finally Tim George and the 8 car of Brandon Webb. As here we go, fight for second. Suddenly Lindgren was there for a moment. And here comes Tim George on the inside of the 91 of Tyler Langenberg. This is the fight for 5th. And Tim George has got it, at least for a moment. Now loses it back to the 91 car down the straightaway. Gonna fight, though, to the inside of turn number 3. Slide a little bit on entry. And keep trying to wrestle that spot away, as so does Lindgren. 2 Dodge Chargers fighting for the 2nd spot on the racetrack. Lindgren inside, Levine outside. They get single file once again. Tim George, though, through clear now for the 5th spot. As here comes Brandon Webb on the inside of Tyler Langenberg. Look how close they get. And into turn number 3, advantage goes to Brandon Webb. Ten laps to go in stage number 2. Once again, you've got the 59 and 85 fighting side by side. Zach Lindgren was frustrated, was falling back there in stage 1, but will not be denied a good run. That's clear. And he called a shot earlier, called him on the phone, talked to him a little bit. Said that he'd be talking to me later, implying that he'd be talking to me after this race. At least, that's what I say. He swears that he was just saying, oh, well, you know, if you pull me in during the race, during green flag or something like that. But I'm not going to bug these two as they run side by side. Lindgren inside, Levine outside. Tim George catches the outside wall with the right rear. That opens the door now for Brandon Webb back down to turn 3. Remember, these two made contact a little bit ago. This time, Zach Lindgren nosing ahead of David Levine through the center of 1 and 2. Nearly has that spot wrestled away from the 59 car. Not clear yet, although Brandon Webb gets clear of Tim George for the 5th position. And contact now between those two through turns 3 and 4. George getting the 8 car a little bit squirrely. But hey, a little bit of contact is perfectly fair here at New Hampshire. Certainly in this car, as you got a couple of packs. You got this pack, 2nd through 7th, as that was one heck of a slide job from Zach Lindgren to send it in. And now it's 3 wide down the backstretch. Sean O'Hara inside, Levine middle, Lindgren out. And Levine backs out, gets in behind the 85 car, and stays on the outside of the 18 of Sean O'Hara, who crowds him at the racetrack. Sean trying to get these spots while he can. Get them while they're hot. Langenberg with these guys. Just behind, you see a couple of other battles. Tackett, Miller, Henry Oakes, and others. But side by side, door banging the 59 and 18 cars. Levine outside, O'Hara inside. All night long so far, we've seen these side by side battles where they get locked into this kind of formation. And nobody goes anywhere. They get stuck. Bump drafting now is Brandon Webb to Sean O'Hara, trying to get that 18 car to go on the inside of the corner. And this has been a complete win in stage 2. Even if I still would do something a little bit different if I were David, I would have played this race a bit differently. What a win this move has been. Up in the 3rd spot, defending over Sean O'Hara. Back clear for 3rd as well. Maybe not for long. That was 5 laps to go in stage 1. 4 now left in the stage. Contact there. Brandon Webb jacks up the rear of the 18. And that again helps the 59 of David Levine, as here comes Tim George back into this fight for 4th position. Gonna nose ahead down the back stretch and try to see if he can clear that 18 car. And this might save David Levine's top 3 for the stage. Again, this is going to be a huge move. From 8th or so on through to 3rd at the end of stage number 2. If he can just hang on a couple of more laps now. Tim George to the inside, way down there. Slides up. A little bit of contact maybe with the 59 car. I think they got through fine. David kind of flinching down the back stretch. And wow, that's the easiest pass we've seen on the 59 car yet. That was quick for Tim George. He's got a handle on this car. David back ahead of the 18 car into turn number 1. 2 to go, I think it is. Almost contact there for 5th. And based on when the yellow was thrown for stage 1, we're going to come into the final lap of stage 2. Sean O'Hara surges back up the inside, now tightens up, has to jump out of the throttle. And now Sean looks to the inside as Brandon Webb finally got by David Levine. Everything unraveling here on the last 2 laps. It was a win until now, and David, I think, realizing finally those tires are gone. All while Zach Shucker leads us down to turn number 3. And we'll exit 3 and 4 with the stage win over Zach Lindgren and Tim George, who ran the 85 down. Levine going to try to hang on. There'll be 7th spot, it looks like, in stage number 2. And there it is, stage break upon the racetrack. Zach Shucker wins another stage at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. While these guys pace around and get ready to head down the Elevated Performance pit lane, we're going to go Pit Stop TV side by side briefly and rejoin you in just a moment. The Elevated Performance pit lane is busy here on lap 52. Pit stops fully underway. Brandon Webb, Tyler Langenberg, all into the pits, along with Brian Miller, Sean O'Hara, Zach Stroud, David Levine, so many others. And the mad rush off the pit lane begins, and it's won by none other than Sean O'Hara. Tyler Langenberg follows, Brian Miller after that, then Caden Henry Oaks, David Levine, and Scott Myers. Only a couple of 4-tire stops, including that of Brandon Webb, who's the fastest under this cycle, but no 4-tire stop is faster than that of Caden Henry Oaks, who will hang on to today's Elevated Performance pit stop of the race with a time of 20.97 seconds between stages 1 and 2. A very, very quick stop there for the 19 car. This time, though, he takes 2 tires, heads back out there in the 7th spot, moving ahead of David Levine on the pit lane, and that is important as well. Keeps him ahead of Scott Myers, moves him ahead of Brandon Webb, and I think that is a race high now for the 19 car of Caden Henry Oaks, and it will be once we go green flag racing, it looks like. Cars doubling up down the backstretch. A reminder of our point standings coming into this evening. There's a lot to talk about here. Tim George was great in stage 1. Has fallen back now, will restart 3rd, it looks like, for stage 2. David Levine, a little bit of a non-factor so far after the tires wore off there in stage 2 anyway. Sean O'Hara will restart from the 4th spot, and Zach Shucker has won both stages and looks to continue to impress in this DLine Racing League. Going to the restart to begin stage number 3. Outside Shucker, inside Lindgren, green flag back out. Sean O'Hara takes the outside wall. Tim George moves now to the inside of the 18 car. Brian Miller up to 5th spot. Langenberg and Levine fight for the 6th position as Tim George tries to get by that 18 car. 1 lap will go complete this time by in stage number 3. And Zach Lindgren now, mano-a-mano, straight up with Zach Shucker. The interesting thing is they both stayed out under this most recent yellow. However, Lindgren took 4 tires. Is that going to matter in this race? He also had to race through that gaggle of cars while Shucker was able to kind of save his stuff out front. That said, how much saving are you really doing if you're leading the race and pulling away? Well, Sean O'Hara just went purple. Fastest lap of the race, turned directly behind Zach Lindgren. If he knows that, if Zach knows that, I think maybe a little bit of pressure certainly is now on the 85 car. Meanwhile, Brian Miller in 5th is suddenly feeling some pressure from David Levine, who's got new tires for the first time all night, at least since the start of the race. And clearly, David took my non-factor comment a little bit personally. He is putting some pressure here on the 26. Driver out of Illinois, looking to the inside of Miller, gets the outside wall a little bit. And that'll hold him back in turn 3 as Zach Stroud. Alrighty then. Brandon Webb was all over the back end of Tyler Langenberg, and you've really just got 8-9 cars in a line under a blanket as Tim George. Not sure where he was going. Went completely to the inside down the front stretch and back up the racetrack. All while Zach Shucker is not able to go anywhere just yet over Zach Lindgren. Not sure what the weave is into the corner. Not sure if they're trying to throw a Scandi flick or what they're doing. Down the front stretch, though, Zach Lindgren right on the back end there of Zach Shucker. And these two race under one roof. In fact, we have 3 drivers in this race racing from the same place. Zach Shucker, Zach Lindgren, and Caden Henry Oaks are all racing on the same internet right now. And I will say, I am impressed. I'm not sure who their ISP is, but I'm impressed. 3 iRacing sim rigs connected to the same race. And you get to see them all here, the 48, the 85, and the 19 cars, all in this race, under the same roof. That is rare that you have 3 drivers. You have roommates, you have friends from time to time that live together, whatever, but it's rare that you have 3 like that, as Zach Shucker continues to lead this race, Lindgren second, and now Caden Henry Oaks is in trouble and parks it down the back stretch. And I will always heavily criticize leaving a race before it's over. I really don't understand why you would burn your time up until this point if you're going to willingly leave. If something comes up in the real life, that's on you, or well, that's fine, I guess, but it's really silly, in my opinion, to burn an hour of your time to this point, hour and a half even, and then suddenly leave. I don't know what you get out of that, but David Levine, though, what he's going to get out of this is a fight with Brian Miller, former roommate there. Miller on the number 26 Supra has spent some time over at Sam Hunt Racing as a mechanic. Past experience with the SRX series. David Levine, though, really trying to bust his chops right now and go on by the 26. That would be for 5th position. A very important top 5 in the points as they stand. All while Zach Shucker outruns every single car on this racetrack. The only one that I think really has a good shot right now, well, has to be second place, of course, Zach Lindgren, because he's there. But at the same time, I don't know that anybody else has really shown the same speed to keep up with this 48 car. However, Sean O'Hara certainly got a great chance. He's on the newest tires and the farthest up through this entire field. He's on 11 lap old tires compared to everybody else's 36 lap old tires in the top 3, in the top 4 even, as Tim George also stayed out on that most recent caution. Also, props to these guys. 1 caution for cause this evening. I know that's something that that's some terminology that Mike Joy likes to use with NASCAR on Fox that fits tonight. 2 stage yellows, 1 caution for cause. That was an early yellow that developed between Zach Stroud and Caden Henry Oaks, both drivers now out of this race. Not related to that incident. Michael Della Sala, I think, has parked it under his own volition, along with Zach Stroud and Caden Henry Oaks. Tim George, I hate to say it, but those tires have gone away. He's got 22 laps led most of stage 1, clearly, until Zach Shucker took over and simply has not looked back with a double lot. I think second in terms of series power rankings, if you will, coming into tonight, the points leader. Hard to bet against the 00, honestly. But tonight, I think falling victim to a bit of a strategy difference, as O'Hara's clearly faster and putting pressure on Lindgren and Shucker. I'm not really sure why O'Hara's behind the 85 and 48 to begin with. Maybe just a bit of an off day, but these 2 out front, these 2 Zacks have got the rest of the field covered up. That was 10 laps to go. Here comes 9 laps to go, as a fight brews between Miller, Levine, Langenberg, and Webb. Very close here. This is for 5th. David Levine on the inside, Brian Miller on the outside. And sending it goes David Levine into turn number 3, trying to get himself clear. Just gets ahead of the 26 car. Langenberg there on the inside now, looking just below the 26 of Brian Miller. Backs up to the inside of Brandon Webb, though. Webb on the outside. Could he get 7th pulled away? A fight down into turn number 3. Brandon Webb still on the outside of Tyler Langenberg. Neither car wavering ever so slightly. Drag race on the front stretch, and I think Langenberg has still got that spot for sure. 7 laps to go up front. This is your lead battle. Can Zach Lindgren do anything here? You're right on board for second place. Down the backstretch into turn number 3, nearly 140 miles per hour for Zach Lindgren. It'll be 5 to go this time by the flag stand. And they have pulled away squarely from Sean O'Hara. Everybody else kind of falling on back. Levine through for 5th. Miller 6th. Langenberg 7th. Nobody else moving around whatsoever. The battle is up here for the top 2 spots. It was 5 laps to go there. It'll be 4 this time. Time is ticking. The clock running down for the 85 car. I don't necessarily condone it, but I think it's going to take a bump and run here. Actually, I certainly condone a bump and run. That's great television. That's great racing. But I really don't think we'll see Zach Lindgren employ it. Not the kind of guy to do it. Tried to get a run that time, running an opposite line to Zach Shucker, trying to get a higher entry, lower exit, get a good run down the backstretch. It worked okay, as you're right on board with the 85 car, but Shucker still with the advantage. And they're still just so even, lap after lap after lap. 3 to go. Last lap for these two, separated by 3/100ths of a second. And it flip-flops. 1 lap it's Lindgren, 1 lap it's Shucker. Meanwhile, Brent Webb moves on by Tyler Langenberg, and they continue to fight for the 7th position. Side by side they are into turn number 3. But up front, we can't lose sight of these two. 2 laps to go at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. This is round 10, by the way, of the championship. Time has simply run out. If you weren't in it yet, boy, you certainly wish you were. 2 laps to go after today. It's 2 races to go in the DLine Racing League. Down the backstretch. Is Zach Lindgren going to put a move on Zach Shucker? Fakes him into turn number 3. Lindgren dives to the outside. Weird to see that, but sends it up in on the top side. Now going to try and cross him up on the front stretch. Lindgren down to the inside. What a move that was, fighting down low of Zach Shucker for turn number 1 with 1 lap to go. White flag presented by Whiplash Sim Cams, and oh boy, Zach Lindgren backed out into turn 1, and that is a race-losing casualty. That's it. If you want to win races, you've got to take that space. You can't. Oh, I hate that, man. But still, Zach is going to victory lane as Zach Shucker wins at New Hampshire in one of the most perplexing fights I've ever seen. Six wins now on the season for Zach Shucker. Absolute domination once again. How many laps led out of 75? 49. You can't beat it. Although you could have beat it if you were Zach Lindgren. I understand respectful racing, but when you've got position on somebody, you've got to just take it. I hope that lights a fire underneath Zach. Underneath Lindgren, that is. He's so respectful, but if he just sent it, I think he would have had this win this evening. That said, congratulations all around to the guy who oh so deserves it. Absolutely dominated this race once again, showing up the field in the DLine Racing League, doing some donuts right under our front stretch burnout drone. It's a smoke show. Yeah, I'd say Zach Shucker's happy about this one, that's for sure. The burnouts continue for car 48, and finally, maybe, are they done? I think so. That's probably all she wrote for the motor. I don't think the engine would take much more of that. Although he is slowly running down the front stretch. Do we see more burnouts from the 48 car? Does he just whip it around and turn right back into the pit lane? Who knows? Regardless, again, job well done. I hate that for Zach Lindgren. Love that for Zach Shucker. I just think if you're Zach Lindgren there, you've got the move to the inside. I can't understand backing out of it at a turn one. And this is actually where it is. We can watch this back in full speed. This is where Lindgren has the move set up into turn one. He's almost got a nose. Just race. I mean, yeah, he was there and he backed out. It's fair game in oval racing. In road racing, yeah, maybe. Vortex of danger, all that. On an oval like that, you've got to send it. And unfortunately, the nice guy does finish second in this case. Regardless, though, race winner, Zach Shucker, so deserved. I know I probably sound a little bit negative about it right now, but so deserved for Zach. Well, Zachary Shucker, that is. Again, it's just another race win for the guy. He's just that good in this late model stock car, apparently, at least in this field. He puts up 49 laps led, more than his car number. That's rare. Lindgren goes P2. Sean O'Hara, really stellar run there as well for the 18 car. Finishes third. Tim George, fourth spot, just hanging on over David Levine. Brian Miller ends up sixth. Really solid day for Brian. Brandon Webb fell back a little bit from where I think he probably should have been. Seventh place there for Brandon. Tyler Langenberg lost a couple of spots, fell back to eighth. Scott Myers, though, grabbed a few spots, ends up ninth spot. Joey Tack hit another top 10 this season. Kevin O'Hara, Caden Henry Oaks, Zach Stroud, and Michael Della Sala, the rest of your running order after 75 laps of racing. And Zach Shucker, yet again, is talking to us, talking to me specifically after one of these races. And Zach Shucker, you led more laps than your car number, and that's pretty rare in the DLine Racing League. 49 laps led out of 75 laps run, but you nearly had a car to your inside in turn one on that last lap. What was that battle like with Lindgren?
It was pretty fun. Lindy was pretty close to matching me lap time, and then having the draft really helped him. As I was noticing, he was getting into the corners a touch better, but I was able to roll the center better, which helped me kind of protect from him. He got one good run on me. He tried to make a move, and then I switched up and took the top on him because I was like, I can roll the top as long as he doesn't get inside and door me. And I had faith that he wouldn't do that, and he managed to not do that. So, you know, when you have somebody that is respectful, it's great racing.
It was very, very close racing those last few laps. You could see Lindgren methodically setting you up, trying to, get what he could. And eventually he did set you up, nearly sent it there to turn one, a lap 75, but he backed out. There is a load of respect between you guys, and it's very apparent when the guy's racing you for a win and backs out because he doesn't want to make contact.
Yeah, well, in the group chat, he was being egged on to wreck me and asked how much his rent would go up. So then I asked Sean if he wanted free dinner in a couple nights, and he caught back up to Lindy a little bit. So there was a little back and forth jibber jabber going on, which is nice when you can talk to each other, but at the same time can distract you because you start laughing about it.
Well, certainly that banter is difficult to ignore, but when you can ignore it and go put a win on your shoulders like you did this evening, I think that makes it all that much sweeter. Congratulations. Win number 6 on the season between all these different race 1, race 2s, and now just race for the evening. Congrats once again. Hopefully we're talking to you next week in New Smyrna.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and thank you for Grandpa's paint scheme, which his favorite number was number 6, so we're going to say this one is for him. And thanks to Pit Stop TV and Elevated Performance as always.
And it just might be your most important win as well, which I think means something. Numerology is weird, but that just might put you back in the points league. Congratulations once again. Hopefully we're talking to you next week.
Thank you, sir.
Zach Shucker with a very, very important win this evening at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Meanwhile, it's this guy, Zach Lindgren, in the second spot. And Zach, you nearly, I think we just got it there on the camera again, maybe, nearly had the inside line into turn one, but you backed out. Why did you back out?
It really wasn't there. I mean, I was looking inside, but I mean, if we go looking from the front of it, I was maybe at his bumper. So, if my front right was at his rear left, then maybe I would have been able to keep that line. But if we would have continued on that line and Zach decided to take the line that he did going into one, we both would have wrecked, or he would have wrecked. So I mean, I really didn't have it. I would have had to throw it in from 5 car lengths back, and it still. I tried it a couple of times, and the car just doesn't stick. It wants to slide up. So there would have been no point for me to try to hold it down there, push us both up the track. We were both pulling away from Sean, so he did a good job of defending it. If I would have thrown it as hard as I could down into turn one, it wouldn't have stuck, and it would have just pushed me right up into him.
Well, New Smyrna next week is a completely different story. I know you're not really in this for points, you say that, but you are going to start amassing a large collection of points for your season, and it's certainly going to move you up and I think show that you are one of the best drivers in this series. Going into these last 2 races, is it still trophy hunting mode at all?
Oh yeah. Well, I know that move going into one on the final final lap didn't look like it, but every race is trophy hunting. Like I said, I'm not in this for points, but I'm not gonna throw it in down on the apron and push somebody up the track when, like I said, I'm not in this for points. If I'm side by side with somebody going into one, then sure, I can. It's a little bit more understandable. But when I don't even have a fender on somebody, I'm not gonna do it. So if I'm in a good position and I feel like I'm strong enough to make a move, or I feel like I've got enough confidence in the car to make a move, then I probably will do so as confident as I can. But if you tap these cars in anything behind the rear tires, these cars are very quick to go around, so I didn't want to risk that tonight. And especially right there on the final lap, like I said, Zach did a good job of defending. I just couldn't really grab any kind of grip to hold a line on him. So if that's the case next week, then we're going to try to do it as smart as we can. But if we have all the grip in the world and I'm confident with the car, I'm sure I can make some moves to try to get me to that point.
By the way, what were the cash totals up to, offers to wreck the leader there?
I threw out the offer that if I wrecked him and my rent goes up, who's going to cover that cost? For those of you that don't know, I live with Zach Shucker, so if my rent went up after wrecking him, I was hoping that somebody would call in and cover the cost of whatever it goes up. But there was also offers to wreck me, and so I kind of had to play the negotiation game a little bit more tedious because there was offers on the table to get me. So
it goes both ways.
It goes both ways. It goes both ways. So I didn't want to get into Shucker and claim my pot and then somebody claims their pot on me. So the give and take there had to. I kind like I said, I kind of had to be careful with those negotiations.
Well, it goes both ways there. Zach Lindgren, P2, going both ways down the backstretch. Left, right, swerving a little bit. But
that was fun. I was hoping you picked that up a little bit.
We did. Congratulations, P2 this evening, squarely on the podium, silver. Got to go get gold, though. New Smyrna and IRP, 2 opportunities left for the 85 car to go back to victory lane. Congratulations. Hopefully we're talking to you next week.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
Meanwhile, Sean O'Hara goes P3 this evening in car number 18, and certainly a strong run here. And Sean, it's been a couple of weeks since we talked to you, but a very strong run, especially that last run. You had new tires. You went up there past guys who didn't. How important were those tires in that last run?
It was pretty important for trying to get the top 3, but I just didn't have enough for the top 2, unfortunately. Taking only right sides at the end to try to jump in front of some of the guys that I was hoping to take 4 and try to get up in front of them. So,
and we heard early about the 2-tire strategy. It was something I'd thought about, mentioned a little bit in pre-race, but I didn't realize just how important it would be. What was the left side tire wear like at the end of a run?
So at the end of the race, because I didn't take any left sides, it was 70% on the left front. for my driving style, and unfortunately, I'm pretty heavy on the front end with the way this car's set up.
And of course, the DLine Racing League, you guys are all friends. You all communicate a lot throughout the week. In this case, since we had 2 weeks, or I guess an extra week, if you will, in between races, there was a practice race last Tuesday. How important are those kinds of practice races to kind of get everybody onto the same page, and especially get a setup built for these races that can do that kind of thing, can open up the strategy box like that?
Yeah, it was definitely really good for especially some of these guys to get that practice race. Especially my dad, but it's really good to get everybody kind of figure out how to run around each other, especially at different tracks, because people make speed at different points, especially like at the end. You could see me where I could gain speed on Lindy, but just didn't have enough to try to make a move there. But it's great to be able to run everybody together.
By the way, before we let you go, I have to say congratulations for the win over the past weekend. What was the weekend like? I mean, that's got to be a big deal.
Yeah, it was a pretty big deal for us getting our first win on the Porsche 963 number 7 car. The weekend didn't start out as good as we expected. We were struggling a little bit. Even doing the test before, we thought we were going in pretty good, but the track evolved so much by the time we got there that it threw most of our setup stuff out the window, so it was a real hard fought battle to get up there. And then good old Campbell and Nasser threw it together in qualifying, and then had a nice smooth race for once in the main event, so that was really good for us not to have any issues.
Well, congrats on a whole lot of things then. The win, P3 tonight, a lot of things going right for you. Hopefully that continues as we go into these last few races of the season. New Smyrna next up. Hopefully we'll see you there.
Yeah, hopefully I can just get 2 more spots. Finally get a win in this series,
Well, and you know what? You're squarely in this fight for the championship as well, so that would certainly be helpful. Hopefully we see you on the top step of the podium next week in Florida.
I'm hoping so.
Sean O'Hara from position number 3 this evening at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We're going to go from way up north to way down south next week. From New Hampshire tonight to New Smyrna next week, right along the shore, right along the beach down there in New Smyrna, Florida. Should be a lot of fun before we head to the Midwest for the Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park for our finale this season on August 22nd. And then it's the All-Star Race, August 29th, when it's all said and done. Just throw the gloves off, boys, and go after it. And that should be a lot of fun at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. To rise, you must elevate. Elevating tonight, Zach Shucker once again, 6th time this season heading to victory lane. We spoke with him, of course. And tonight's elevated performance pit stop of the race goes to none other than Caden Henry Oaks, a time of 20.97 seconds for a full 4-tire and fuel pit stop. Congratulations to car number 19. We'll take a look here at our upcoming broadcasts at Pit Stop TV. Certainly a wide variety of racing in these next 3 shows. Wednesday evening, tomorrow night, August the 9th, we go actually to Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park for the UFL Elite Series. That's going to be a lot of fun. IRP is always a fun place to go race, and certainly will be with these Gen 4 NASCAR Cup cars. That just sounds cool. If that doesn't sound cool to you, I don't know what's wrong. Get your blood pressure checked, I'm not sure, but that just sounds fun. Old school at this point, which that's weird to say. 15-year-old NASCAR Cup cars running around IRP. And David Levine knows a thing or two about that. He's run some ARCA races there and some former Cup cars. Friday evening, though, after we get round 2 of UFL out of the way, we go to round 2 of the Barber Ford Mustang Club. We take Mustangs on the track at Watkins Glen International. That should be fun as well, up into New York. Then finally, to end the week of racing, we go to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and that should be a lot of fun on Sunday evening, August the 13th, for the Noble Can-Am Series, round number 6 for them. And certainly time is waning for those late model stock cars and super late models to get their final arrangements made for the championship. Then Monday evening, we continue back into a new week of racing. EPI Short Track Mondays with late model stock cars at Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park. Tuesday, we come right back with the D-Line Racing League at New Smyrna. Wednesday, kind of a whole new thing starts from there. So we'll catch you in all those broadcasts. Big thank you for tuning in this evening. Big thank you, of course, to Elevated Performance. A big part of this series would not be possible without them. And certainly looking forward to strengthening that bond between the D-Line Racing League, Elevated Performance, and Pit Stop TV, along with our partners here on the side of the screen, Whiplash Media Simcams, ATVO, and CC's Business. Thanks so much once again for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Thanks to InAudio, ATVO, Whiplash Media Simcams, OBS, and iRacing.com. Tomorrow night, UFL Elite Series from Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park, IRP. Wednesday evening racing in NASCAR Cup cars. Old NASCAR Cup cars, IRP. Should be a lot of fun. We'll see you there.